Welcome to Garden of the Spirit, a class studying apples from the orchard for the second time. We started in 2014. This class, after Pesach, this class meets in Long Meadow, Massachusetts, the center of the universe, and is held in memory of Malka Ruth Bas Moshe, Margaret Vogel of blessed memory. Apples from the Orchard contains selections of teachings of Kabbalah from the Arizal or by Vayishlach Luria, based on the weekly Torah portion, superbly translated and explained by Rabbi Moshe Wisniewski. We are in chapter 3 of Vayishlach. We're on page 192. Okay, we're going to share the screen. Okay. Number 7. So in this chapter we talk about the 8 kings of Edom. The Torah says these are the 8 kings of Edom before there was a king in Israel. And it lists them. Apparently, when Moshe wrote this, much of it hadn't happened yet. It was projecting into the future up or till near the time of King Shaul, perhaps before that. But it lists 8 kings, says their names. Right before it, the Torah spends a chapter about the family of Esav and who his children were and grandchildren and wives and so on. But then it talks about the 8 kings. Apparently, it's telling you that from Avram's family came Esav, and they grew into a very prominent nation. Incidentally, the nation of Esav is considered the nation of Rome. Grew into Rome, and Rome destroyed the second Beis Hamikdash. We consider that part of the eternal conflict between Yaakov and Esav, and Rome gave birth to the Christian world. We consider this the family of Esav. Also incidentally, as I came across probably a couple times in Medrash, where they mention, I think it's Romulus and Remus. So I came once or twice. We came across it in Medrash, that they, which was written about the year 300, in the first few centuries, 3rd, 4th, 5th centuries. So they make reference to it there. I was very surprised to see it. So that is Esav, and so it's lists the 8 kings. In Kabbalah, it looks at these 8 kings as, and the world of Esav as Olam HaTohu. Olam HaTohu is a creation that precedes our creation. Our creation is called Olam HaTikun. The two properties of Olam HaTohu that stand out are that the lights of Tohu were extremely powerful, and much stronger than the limited lights of Tikkun. Because they were so powerful, there was no interdependence or intersection with each other. All of the spheras left no room for any other sphera. So they couldn't blend. They were totally for themselves. And because of this, the containers were not able to contain them, and the containers shattered. Then, after or next, was created Olam HaTikun, the world of repair. And our job, and first of all, the faults of Olam HaTohu were avoided. The lights came down in a measured way, and because of that, they were able to blend with the other lights. There was room for each other. And in Olam HaTikun, we pick up the shards, we repair the damage, we get the pieces of container that were broken from the Olam HaTohu. Olam HaTohu is, I guess, literally means, or it could be translated as the world of chaos, or world of nothingness. So these are the 8 kings. As we're gonna, and we speak about the 8 kings as the world corresponding to Esav. I'm sorry, the Olam HaTohu as the corresponding to Esav, Olam HaTikun, world of repair, corresponding to Yaakov. Esav was mighty, he was powerful, just as the lights of Tohu were. And if you think about the character of Rome and what comes to mind when we think of Rome, the Roman legions, who were renowned for their might, for their strength, for their power, for their battle skills. This aligns well with Esav and with the lights of Tohu. My idea. I didn't see that written anywhere. So the also along with this are the ideas of judgments, of gvura, of dinin, of severities. Personally, I like the word severities, so I prefer to use that. If you think about it historically, or personality-wise, Avraham was the epitome of the trait of chesed, of kindness and benevolence. We know that he was well known for welcoming guests and treating them well and serving them. And from him was born Yitzchak, but also came Yishmael. Yishmael, the father of the Arabs, were known for their indulgences, which is a trait of chesed, of klipa and kindness. Think of the Arabs sitting around the souk, or sitting around the coffee table, the coffee house, with the hookahs and what's the other stuff, arak, that they drink, right, and enjoying our strong coffee. I don't know, and it could be Turkish. I don't know, and enjoying their strong coffee and indulging and playing their sheshbesh. Sheshbesh, you all know what that is?
Dice.
Huh?
Some game.
Sheshbesh is backgammon.
Yeah.
Okay, so that lines well with what we know about Yishmael. And then Yitzchak was a trait of Gvura, and from him came Yaakov, but also Esav. So that is Gvura of Klipa. And if you think about Esav and what the physical strength and power, with the anger that he bore against Yaakov, and then from his progeny, from the nation of Rome. So it comes to mind the Gvura, I'm guessing not that I'm familiar with any of them, but the movies where they depict the Romans and the Roman soldiers. You hear the story of the Roman soldiers at Masada, just very, with a lot of strength, a lot of Gvura. But that is Gvura of Klipa. So last week we asked a bunch of questions. There are two passages of this account of these kings. One is in Vayishlach in the Torah, and the other is in Divrei Hayamim in the Book of Chronicles. And there are differences between the two. There are also differences within the description of the 8 kings. And we had some questions last time. For each of them, it says he ruled and he died. He ruled and he died. And this is an allusion to the lights of Tohu that shone. They ruled, they shone, but then they died. They did not last because they were too powerful, and they did not leave room for each other. And we said there are the 8 kings exist at 3 levels: the level of Arachanpin, the level of which is part of Keser, the level of Ze'er Anpin, which is the 6 central midos of spheros of Atzilus, and then Nukva, which is Malchus. The for Arach Anpin is beyond us. We just can't describe that, and therefore it's not part of any account. The the account of the 8 kings in the Torah corresponds to Ze'er Anpin. Ze'er Anpin is the male principle, and it's the 6 central midos, spheros, so that is in the Torah. And then we have Malchus, Nukva, which is the feminine principle, and that is corresponds to the passage in Divrei Hayam in the Book of Chronicles. So we'll see, and this will account for for the questions and the differences we find. So we're going to begin 192 near the bottom, and I'll start reading from here, number 7. The Torah introduces the list of kings, saying, "These." Any questions or comments so far? Okay, Chaim's crystal clear. Not quite. You don't understand it well enough to ask any questions. But okay, the Torah, we'll do the best we can. The Torah introduces the list of kings, saying, "These are the kings who ruled in the land of Edom." But when it actually lists the kings, it leaves out the word land. It could be list the first king. Bela ben Beor ruled in Edom, not in the land of Edom. Land, Eretz, refers to Nukva, and the account in the Torah is in Ze'er Anpin. So it doesn't belong. So land, which is feminine, does not belong in Ze'er Anpin. Edom refers to Ze'er Anpin because Yaakov is Ze'er Anpin. Esav is the counterpart to Yaakov. So if Yaakov is Ze'er Anpin, then Esav must also be Ze'er Anpin. One moment. Please keep in mind the names of the kings. Today, we are only going to do the first king. We're not going to get past him. The first king's name is Bela ben Beor. So we're going to be talking about Bela, and that is the first king. So please, we're going to have a few other names here, so please keep that in mind. Okay, Alan, please begin. This is why.
Why it says in the Torah, "And these are the kings who ruled in the land of Edom." But continues, Bela ben Beor ruled in Edom, not repeating the words "the land of." The land of Edom signifies Nukva of Ze'er Anpin, which is called the land, while Edom by itself refers to Ze'er Anpin, since Esav, who is Edom, is parallel to Yaakov, as it is written, "He is Esav, the father of Edom." As we know, Yaakov personified Ze'er Anpin.
All right, thanks. Next, 8. These kings represent judgments or severities. They remained in Ze'er Anpin, but could not settle there. In other places, we speak of the 5 severities, and the 5 severities are severities of Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzach, and Hod. This may be the severities it speaks of here. I'm not sure. This itself is not clear to me what it's saying. I think it means that they're there, but they weren't able to settle there. There in Ze'er Anpin. The Torah therefore leaves out the word land because the 8 kings cannot settle, and they're going to. Then it's a land, as we said, is the feminine principle, is Malchus. Go ahead, 193.
Torah describes the kings who ruled in Zeranpin. It is therefore written, Bela ben Beor ruled in Edom, and not in the land of Edom, in order to indicate that these states of stringent judgment existed in Zeranpin itself. These kings issued from Bina of Zeranpin and sought to settle in Zeranpin, but could not. The Torah therefore says in Edom, since Edom is in the words of the Zohar, where judgment is bound and connected, referring to Bina of Zeranpin.
Hey, also keep in mind that each of the spheres has 10 subspheres. So there is Bina within Zeranpin, and then there is Malchus within Zeranpin, and those are the subsets, those are subspheres. And in addition to the Bina, which is above Zeranpin, and Malchus a little below. Okay, 9. So too, that the Torah leaves out the word land when we're talking about Zeranpin. The Zohar quotes the verse without land when referring to Zeranpin, but quotes the verse with land when referring to Nukva. Again, this is because land, Eretz, is the feminine principle. We plant in the earth just like the female, just like the embryo is developed and nourished in the female. So too, we plant seeds in the ground, and the ground cultivates, fertilizes. Ground fertilizes seeds and mineralizes the seeds. My scientist here says it's making a face, and fertilizes the seeds and produces the yields. It yields the yields, the crops. 9. Okay, go ahead, Alan.
This explains why the Zohar, when discussing the kings who ruled in Zeranpin, quotes as well the verse, and Bela ben Beor ruled in Edom. But when discussing the kings who ruled in Nukva, only quotes the verse, and these are the kings who ruled in the land of Edom. This is also why the Zohar, in the context of Nukva, mentions the place where all judgment is found, and these are the rectifications of the female.
I don't know. Stay here. 10. Since the 8 kings of Edom in the Torah, since the 8 kings of Edom in the Torah refers to Zeranpin, and in Chronicles refers to Nukva, the Zohar's explanation of the 8 kings makes no mention of Arich Anpin, because not in either account.
Proof that the description of the kings within Arich Anpin is not alluded to in the Torah is in the fact that no mention of them is made in the Zohar either. The kings mentioned are mentioned only in connection with Zeranpin and Nukva.
Any questions or comments so far? No. Okay. 11. This idea, the 8 kings at the level of Arachampin are not mentioned at all. The 8 kings of Zeranpin are discussed in the Torah, and the 8 kings of Nukva in Chronicles will answer all the questions. As we said, the first king, for Bela ben Beor, the account in the Torah leaves out the word land, while in Chronicles the word land is included. That we mentioned. Jim, are you ready?
Yeah.
193. At the bottom.
Now, we have demonstrated that these kings allude only to Zerampan and Nukva, and as they exist in Zerampan, they're hidden. All the discrepancies mentioned in the Torah and the Book of Chronicles will be clear. The kings mentioned in the Torah are those of Zerampan, and those mentioned in the Book of Chronicles are those of the Nukva of Zerampan. Therefore, regarding the kings of Zerampan, the Torah says, and Bela ben Beor ruled in Edom. While regarding those of Nukva, the Book of Chronicles does not say he ruled in Edom, only that they rule in the land of Edom.
Okay, and that's what we mentioned before, that the land is Malchus, and therefore it's mentioned in the account of Chronicles, but not in the Torah. Additionally, where it says Malchus, here it says Malchus, which is a subset of Ze'arampin. I'm not clear if it means Malchus independent as its own sphera, or Malchus as it is as a subsphera of Ze'arampin. Here it seems to say that it's a subsphera of Ze'arampin. Now, 12. The name of the first king, Bela. I told you got to remember the names of the kings. We got to be fluent in them, at least as we go through. The name of the first king is Bela, is close to Bilam from the parsha next week, and they are seen as they're considered here as one evil. How do you pronounce it? Archetype or archetype?
Archetype.
Archetype. As one evil archetype. In Chicago, we say archetype. As one evil archetype. Bilam's father, the name of Bilam's father was Beor, the same as Bela. So we have Bela ben Beor. When we get to Bilam, and you'll see in the parsha next week, it's Bilam ben Beor. So they both have the same. Their father's name actually are the same. Bilam was a great. I missed something here. Their names are almost identical, except for a mem in Bilam. Bela is Beis Lamed Ayin, and Bilam is Beis Lamed Ayin Mem. Bilam was a great evil prophet comparable to Moshe. While Moshe was Das of holiness, Bilam was Das of Klippa. Bilam said in his prophecy that he was Yodea Das Elyon. He knows supernal Das. The Talmud says Bilam could discern, and this is a freebie here. The Talmud says Bilam could discern the moment each day of Hashem's anger. And Rashi mentions it in the Chumash, that he was hoping to catch that moment and use it to curse the Jewish people. Tosfos asks, what kind of curse could he say in one moment? So Tosfos says that Bilam would have said the word, he was prepared to say the word kalem. Kalem means finish them off. So the Torah says, as we know, that Hashem transformed Bilam's curse into a blessing. The curse itself was transformed into a blessing. Not that he was prevented from saying a curse, and instead he said a blessing, but Vayafach Hashem transformed the curse into a blessing. So the Shalah says that the word kalem, finish them off, can be transposed into the word melech, king. So they both have the same letters, kaf, lamed, and mem. And the word melech is in Bilam's blessing. He says, usruas melech bo, that the friendship of the king is with him. So putting a few different things together, the Shalah says that the word that he had prepared, the curse that he had prepared, kalem, finish them off, was the curse that was transformed into a blessing, melech. Okay, so Jim, go ahead. The first king.
The first king, Bela ben Beor, personified Das. which issues forth after Bina, opposite Das in the realm of issue the Gentile prophet Balaam ben Beor, or Bilam ben Beor. As the sages state, it is written in the Torah, there arose no prophet in Israel like Moshe. But amongst the Gentiles, there did arise such a prophet named Bilam. Just as Moshe personifies Das on the side of holiness, so did Bilam personify Das on the side of evil, inasmuch as he personified strict judgment. Bela, Beit Lamed Ayin, and Bilam, Beit Lamed Ayin Mem, are spelled exactly the same, except for the final Mem at the end of Bilam. Thus, they are considered to be the same person, or at least personifications of the same spiritual archetype. Bilam was a Gentile prophet hired by Balak to curse the Jews on the eve of their entry into the land of Israel. He was granted prophecy, even though he misused his gift and was evil, so that non-Jews could not claim that non-Jews could not claim that had they too a prophet like Moses amongst their ranks, they would have accepted the Torah and obeyed God's will. Moses personified the Sephir of Das, subjective knowledge of God, and imparted that quality to the Jewish people. Since Bilam was his equivalent on the side of evil, he personified evil Das. We are taught that God becomes angry with the world for one moment each day. The sages say that Bilam's main prophetic talent was that he always knew this one precise moment of each day and could channel this energy to curse whomever he wished. Thus, he represents evil knowledge, the sensitivity to what is wrong in the world, that is judgment. Of course, a certain amount of this quality is necessary for us to objectively evaluate our progress in life and to improve our behavior. And this is why God allows himself to be judgmental for a split second every day. But focusing exclusively on this quality, as Bilam did, is evil.
Okay.
Keep.
13. How much more do we have here? Huh? Yeah. No, I'm saying how much more do I have in the nose? Okay, Bilam. One moment. Yeah. Okay, Bilam stated he was familiar with supernal Das because it is higher than Das of Zerampin. That's why he called it supernal. This is Das of severity and strict judgment personified by Bela ben Beor. I just got lost. Okay, go ahead, Jim.
This is why Bilam boasted that he knows the supernal knowledge. He was referring to Das that precedes the holy Das of Zeranpin. This is why he called it supernal knowledge. Just as from the third, the posterior lobe of the brain of Zeranpin, which houses its Das, and the words of the Zohar sits in the third cavity of the skull, there issue a million rooms and halls over which the brain of Das proceeds and dwells in it. That's from the Zohar. Chachma resides in the right cerebral hemisphere of the brain, being in the left cerebral hemisphere, and Das in the optical lobe. 1 million lights, states of consciousness, issue from Das and inform the rooms, the Sifirot of Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferet, and the halls, Sifirot of Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet are alluded to by the word rooms, because the word for room in Hebrew, cheder, is taken as an acronym for the words chesed, din, rachamim. Okay, so you got din is judgment, is an alternative name for Gevurah. Rachamim, mercy, is the inner motivation of Tiferet. Das comprises 5 states of chesed and 5 states of Gevurah, as we've mentioned previously. Each of these 10 states is divided into 10 substates, giving 100. And each of these is further divided into 10 substates, giving 1,000. Everywhere, the number 1,000 is associated with the intellect. So we have 1,000 times 1,000, or 1,000,000, manifestations of Das informing the Sifirot below us.
Okay. Okay, Gershon, can you continue? So it is.
So I don't know if, which microphone works. So let me know if you.
This works. You're good.
So it is with regard to this evil das, which expresses a strict judgment and is synonymous with Bela Ben Beor. Thus, the Zohar continues, it makes decrees of the strictest judgment, and together with it, join 1,000,000 masters of moaning and groaning. The masters of groaning and moaning are the kings of Hesed and Gevurah, which we will discuss further on. They join with us since the us comprises the twin modes of relation, Hesed, attraction, and Gevurah, repulsion, and regulates them.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at the Hebrew now. What is this? Masters of moaning and groaning. 1 minute. He switched the order.
Mm-hmm.
It is the masters of moaning and groaning, if I'm not mistaken, based on the Hebrew terms, refers to a frightening cry. Imagine if you're in the forest and it's night and you hear the sounds, the howls of birds or animals, and it's a frightening sound. The wolves, coyotes, owls. And in fact, here, I don't know if you guys ever noticed, we leave, when we walk outside at night, there's a loud noise coming from the grove of trees across the street. I don't know if it's frogs or crickets, and it might even be for much of the year. It's not just in 1 month. Anyone else ever notice this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you may not pay attention to it, but if you walk out after a class, there's a big noise. For Abigail, we have a grove of trees directly across from the school that's maybe 100 yards wide, give or take.
I think it's frogs, but whatever.
Is there water there?
There's some water.
Yeah.
My sister has a pond that sounds hideous. It doesn't sound like an animal. It's so bad.
They're croaking all the time.
Yeah, but it's loud. It is very loud. So
Yeah.
Loud croak. Yeah.
So, so the animal sounds very loud. These things here, it says moaning, groaning. It could be like, it might be translated as shrieks,
Mm-hmm.
or howling, and
Howling. Mm-hmm.
as howls and shrieks, and that is the sounds of the severities, or it accompanies the sounds of the severities. So I want you to. We did speak at different times here. People brought up the idea of different spirits. Just in, what do you call it? In legend, No, in our class, some people, noises? What do you mean? You live across the street from the park? Walk across the street and walk. So anyways, yeah, anyways, we did talk about legends of different type of spirits and sprites, whatever other terms, and those would are the pictures that come to mind when we use these terms, Yavava and Yalala, howls and shrieks. Machal and Yalala is probably related, which is a type of shriek, is probably related to the word for Lila, for night.
Mhm.
Okay. Now 14. Yeah, 14. The word Bella means swallow or absorb. That's right, and absorb. Actually is used for both. And absorb. It's used for both. So the name means to swallow something, or to absorb something. Das of holiness fills parts of the body, and das of klipa is also swallowed and absorbed by the body. Bela, the name of Bela's father is Beor, which means burn. This refers to severities, Hashem's anger, which burns like an inferno. Gershon continues, since the holy Das, read 2 paragraphs.
Since the holy dust enters and permeates the torso, filling the rooms and halls, this evil dust is called Bela, for it is swallowed up inside the torso and the 2 upper cavities. Bela means swallowing. It is further called Ben, the son of Beor, since Beor means burning, because the arousal of Hashem's strict judgment is likened to a great inferno, as in the verse, for behold, the day is coming, burning like an oven. This verse refers to the final judgment day.
Okay, that is the last chapter of the books of prophets.
Mhm.
I don't. Oh, hold on. What's the Hebrew? Okay, the name of the 7th king is similar to the name of the 1st king. The 7th king is Baal Hanan ben Achbar. Baal literally means the chief of, or the master of. Baal is the same letters as Bela. Hanan means grace. So Baal Hanan literally means the master of grace. Or it would mean that Bela, it implies that Bela is partially repaired and reappeared as the 7th king. And I guess the idea of repairing, because his name is Hanan, grace. Bela's father was Beor, which has 4 of the 5 letters as Achbor, father of the 7th king. So father of the 1st king is Beor. Father of the 7th king is Achbor. They Achbor has the same letters as Beor, with the addition of the letter Chaf in the 7th king. So it means that he reappears and he's partially repaired. Gershon, go ahead. King Bela.
King Bela was somewhat rectified and thus made into the 7th king, Baal Hanan. He thus was pardoned, this being the significance of the 2nd word in his name, Hanan. The letters of the name Bela, Beis Lamed Ayin, may be rearranged to spell Baal, Beis Ayin Lamed. The word Baal means master of, and the word Hanan means pardon or grace. So Baal Hanan means the master of pardon.
Okay.
Go
ahead.
As part of the rectification, the letter Chaf was added to Bela's father's name, Beor. And thus Baal Hanan was the son of Achbor. Beor is spelled Beis Ein Vav Resh. Achbor is spelled Ein Haf Beis Vav Resh. Thus, the two names are composed of the same letters, except that Achbor also possesses the letter Haf.
All right. Wow. Okay, we're moving along here. Okay, 16, 17, 18. So we have one page left. We're going to stop with the next paragraph near the bottom of 197. Abigail, you're going to read this, and it just happens to be about women.
Yeah, I get to read this one.
Incidentally. And I didn't share with the rest of the class, but before we started, I was informed that you are doing research on the role of women in Judaism, and specifically, I think you said that you found that this has the only real answers, real explanations for the role of women. So what you're going to read here might be valuable work. And also this explanation is taken from Rabbi Yitzchak Ginsburg, who spoke at an English convention of Neshei Chabad in Jerusalem, 5761, Hanukkah 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the laws of Yichud are the laws of a man and woman not being alone. In the laws of Yichud, it says a man may not be alone with two women. Abigail, what I sent you today in the email, I looked up and I found this is also mentioned. So just be aware. So the Talmud says that why is a man not allowed to be alone with two women? Because women can be easily swayed, and they may not prevent the man from sinning with them, as opposed to two men being with one woman is permitted. The expression over there in the Gemara is Nashim Daitan Kalos, which means that the idea that women can be easily swayed, and literally it means that women have a lighter measure of das. Nashim Da'atan Kalot, that by women the das is a lighter measure. When discussing nukva, the Zohar leaves out the part of the brain that corresponds to das. Since nukva is women, and there's less das by women, so the Zohar leaves out the explaining the part of the brain that corresponds to das when he discusses nukva. Likewise, the account in Chronicles, which corresponds to nukva, leaves out the word ruled by the first king. It doesn't say the king Bela ben Beor ruled in Edom. It just says these are the kings that ruled, and then it gives the list Bela ben Beor, but it leaves out the word ruled. And the first king corresponds to das. Das is deficient in nukva. In the account of the Torah, which corresponds to Zeranpin, on the other hand, the word ruled is added for the first king. Okay, go ahead, Abigail, and just read the bold on 196.
Okay. Now it is known that women's knowledge is light. Therefore, the Zohar, in its discussion of Nukva of Zeranpin, mentions only the rectification of two lobes of the brain. For the third lobe, dot, is light. For the same reason, in the case of this king who personified dot, kingship is not mentioned in the Book of Chronicles. For the account of the Edomite kings in the Book of Chronicles describes Nukva of Zeranpin, whose dot is light. In contrast, the account of the Edomite kings in the Torah, which describes Zeranpin itself, who does possess full das, does mention kingship.
Okay, thanks. 17, the commentary on this. Male, and we've had this a number of times, male represents abstract and theoretic, and female represents concrete and practical. So let's say there's a problem and you discuss what to do with the problem. So the discussion would be the male aspect. And then when you come to a decision and you have to implement it, the implementation would be the female component. Das is the ability to see validity in other points of view and to weigh the merits in opposing viewpoints. This demands a measure of tolerance. This is necessary when discussing theoretics and determining a proper plan of action, which we said is the realm of the male. So you have to hear different points of view, you have to hear different ideas, different options, you have to weigh them. And so this is like abstract and theoretic. And that's when you need Das. However, when implementing the plan, the concrete, that is the realm of the female. The concrete, which is the realm of the female, it is important to stick with the plan. At this point, tolerance, the distraction, other points of view. Women are easily swayed, or women have a lighter measure of das, nashim, dat, and kalos, can be understood to mean tolerance should take a back seat when implementing the plan. I say tolerance takes a back seat. Okay, and this is explained at greater length in the regular plan. Go ahead, Abigail.
So it's similar to how Bina can wander away, right? And Hakma sticks by her. It sounds like a parallel at a lower level. Anyway.
Okay.
As we explained elsewhere, the male approach to life is relatively more abstract, while the female approach is relatively more practical. Thus, the female within us is the drive to consummate the purpose of creation by making the world into God's home, while the male within us is the abstract drive for inspiration. In this context, it is clear why women's knowledge, i.e. their das, must be light. Das is tolerance, the ability to see the validity in other points of view, to compare and weigh the merits of chesed and gevura within any entity. There are situations where tolerance is appropriate and situations where it is not. As long as the discussion is abstract, tolerance is acceptable and even laudable, since it enables us to examine all points of a topic objectively and thereby arrive at the truth. But once the truth has been arrived at, once it has become clear how exactly to accomplish God's purpose in this world, tolerance is no longer a positive force. We must become intolerant of anything that opposes this. A practical example of this is found is in the field of Talmudic dialectics. As long as the discussion is abstract, all opinions and possibilities are legitimate. Both are words of the living God. But once the legal decision is reached, all other opinions become academic, and anyone who conducts himself in accord with them is in error, not accomplishing God's will, and even liable for punishment. Thus, the female side of us must not have strong das, i.e. a generous sense of tolerance, for that would contravene its purpose. The disadvantage of having light das is that we can become intolerant of the wrong things. If we become convinced of something that is not right, our intolerance can make us unwilling to become unconvinced. Thus, women generally are more in danger of being seduced than are men. For all these reasons, it is clear why in Kabbalah great emphasis is placed on the union of the male and female. Our male and female aspects need to cross-fertilize each other so that we may refine our awareness of truth and simultaneously be single-mindedly devoted to its implementation. The female aspect prevents the male aspect from keeping us in a state of abstract non-accomplishment, while the male aspect prevents the female aspect from being seduced into misguided zeal. In the Torah, the account of this king is, and Bela ben Beor ruled in Edom, and the name of his city was Dinhava. In the book of Chronicles, the corresponding verse reads, Bela ben Beor, and the name of his city was Dinhava. There is no specific mention of this king ruling, although his kingship is included with that of all the other kings in the opening verse of this passage. These are the kings who ruled in Edom. Kingship, Malchus, is the sephira of femininity, as can be seen from the fact that Malchus becomes the partsuf of Nukva, the female archetype. Thus, the absence of any mention of kingship with regard to Das in the account of Nukva alludes to this inherent deficiency, strength in feminine psychology. This answers question 8a in the opening of this exposition.
Okay, thank you. And there is one more paragraph we have here. 18, Das of holiness draws from supernal chesed through Bina down to Malchus. This is continuously requested by Malchus. The same is true of Das of Klippa. Nukva of Klippa continuously requests nourishment of severities. The Torah gives the name of Bela's city as Dinhava. Din means severity, and Hava means give. That is, Nukva of Klippa says, give severity, Dinhava, requesting nourishment. Go ahead, Abigail.
And since this king personifies Das, as we said, and therefore comprises all the others, it is stated in the account of his rule that the name of his city was Dinhava. Holy Das draws the consciousness of the supernal chesed, which is revealed in the mouth of Ima from the supernal mind, i.e. Ima, and transmits it to the bride, i.e. Nukva. Nukva continuously requests this chesed from it, i.e. from Das. Compromises them all. Did I say that right? Oh, we will see that the remaining kings personify the Midos. Thus, this first one corresponding to Das comprises them all. The mouth of Ima is the point at which the intellect Ima begins to express itself. Inasmuch as Chesed is the first and driving force of all the emotions, the supernal Chesed, the abstract Chesed of the intellect, is the potential within the intellect to evoke an emotional response. It is made relevant by Das, which then passes this relevance and motivation to Nukva, providing it with the drive to actualize the inspiration produced in the intellect.
Okay, thank you. So we have the names Bela, swallow, and affiliated with Bilam. We have the father Beor, which is a burning inferno. We have in the name of the city, Dinhava, which means give severities. And so this is the first king. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Abigail. One more.
There's one
paragraph
more
here.
here.
The same
Okay.
is true.
The same is true of this evil Das of judgment. The evil Nukva requests God's judgment from it, as is stated in the Zohar, saying, give judgment, Dinhava. Thus, we are told the name of his city, just as we are told that the city of David is Zion. For God created the one opposite the other. Here, the evil Nukva requests insight into how the world is imperfect and needs to be judged. The word Dinhava is seen as the combination of the two words Dinhava, meaning give judgment. The city here is seen as the concretization of the ideals of the person who built it. Just as King David's ideals were concretized in the city of Zion, the focus of the kingdom of Israel, so were the ideals of Bela ben Beor concretized in Dinhava.
Cool.
Okay. That first thing is the ideals. All right. Powerful.
Powerful stuff. Yeah.
Can I ask you all a question?
Yes, I hope it's not too personal.
Well, it's out of the textbook. I'm wondering if people, like everyone in the world, agrees with this sentence on page 197, that women are more in danger of being seduced than men. Do people believe that? I mean, it's one thing to study and it's another thing.
Let me say this. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't say, but let me say this. Instead of the word seduced,
It doesn't exactly say that. It says seduced into a misguided zeal. So we're not talking seduction in and of itself. It's more of a seduction into I would think, into an intellectual or ideology. That's what it's talking more.
I get that. And that makes me think of Hava, right? Because she
Yeah.
was convinced to do something she shouldn't do.
Right. So it's not pure seduction sexual. It's more of a lighter das. It's that type of thing. It's as if I would think the feminine is more fluid and interconnected. The masculine is more directed, kind of compartmentalized and abstract.
That's like biologically true, right? The connection between the two sides of the brain at 4 months pregnant, the connection is broken on the male baby, which they say is generally why women are better managers and men are better at science and math. Super focused. But it makes sense.
The connector is the corpus callosum.
I don't know. Do you know the name of it?
And I looked it up once. The rumor is that the men is larger. This connects the two hemispheres of the brain. I looked it up once and I Googled it and it said not necessarily.
Oh, really?
But I didn't do much. I can't say I did much research. I don't know how reliable that is. Okay, I bet you guys want to be like, how does he know that?
How do you know that?
I'm full of trivial information that won't make me any money.
We didn't want to say that.
I think
the joke that comes from that is the idea that men are born brain damaged.
I think what it means is that when women have something, women have an idea, it's much harder to talk them out of it, and much harder to convince them to change their mind. Once they grab onto an idea, I think that's the point. And the reason why he uses the word seduce is because it's related. It's based on the law of yichud.
Yes, that's why. That's where I have the trouble, because I don't see that women are easier to seduce than men as a general. But I don't know. But
I mean, we learn things and it's written and that's what it says. But I think that the idea is that that women have an idea. It's much harder to talk them out of it or to see another point of view. I have not done a study. Obviously, I haven't done a what's it called? I know all kinds of people. I do have a story. You guys want to hear? I'm sorry to change the subject, Miguel, but we're running out of time. Can I say a quick story?
Sure.
On this topic? Yes. I was talking just this past week about the COVID vaccine with somebody, and the person is knowledgeable. The person is a knowledgeable person. We were talking about the vaccine, and they were complaining, speaking against people who are afraid to get the vaccine. So I had a conversation. I listened, did a lot of listening. I asked a few questions. I did not state my opinion at all. I asked a few questions, and this person is a knowledgeable person. I've asked them questions professionally before, and relied on their opinion, on their judgment. But afterwards, thinking about it, certainly the person did not convince me. And I said, like, why doesn't the person convince me? Why don't they trust me? Why don't I trust them to convince me? It's because the person is single-minded. Once the person has an idea, I don't think I said he or she yet. Once the person has an idea, they they latch onto that idea and defend the idea and are not open to listen to other ideas. They're not open-minded to hear anything that doesn't align with their conclusion or their preconceived notion. And for that, the person does not convince me. I'll listen to the other point of view. I'll, digest it, I'll process it, but and if I can say, I don't trust the person's decision or the person's conclusion because they disregard and they disregard, they belittle any idea that doesn't conform with their notion.
There's an interesting addition to that. Herbert Marcuse is a philosopher, a Marxist philosopher, wrote a book about intolerance or tolerance, and he condemned tolerance. The name of the book is Tolerance, the Critique of Pure Tolerance. And he condemned tolerance because it gave a lot of excuses so that there couldn't be a kind of a Marxist revolution. So he condemned liberalism, real civil liberties, not civil liberties the way the Civil Liberties Union is today, but and interestingly, a lot of his antagonism to ideas at this point in time are becoming manifest in the left-wing process of politics today. It's just, if you read the book and read what he says and read how the left wing takes certain ideas, maybe one Chaim is talking about, and is unbelievably intolerant to it.
When was he?
Okay, so Marcuse, this is really important. Let me get the book. But it's all filtered into the educational system and everything. Let me get you the book.
We have about a minute or two left. So
The Critique of Pure Tolerance. And it's a book which says it's Wolf Moore and Herbert Marcuse. And Marcuse writes about repressive tolerance. This is in the 60s. It was copyrighted in 65 and has infiltrated the educational system. Absolutely. So you should take a look at that and read his book, his theory of repressive tolerance.
He's essentially a Marxist.
Yeah, he's a Marxist, and he criticizes tolerance and ideas, the free flow of ideas. You would find this to be unbelievably fascinating. You've read it? I've read it. I have the book.
Okay.
And I'm happy to drop it off with you.
I've got a big pile.
Okay.
So
Anybody?
when we open next week, I have something relevant to this that the Rebbe said. That's one of my favorite things, and maybe I'll share that with you guys.
Looking forward. Please remind me, Abigail.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, great. Thank you all. Thank you for the open sharing of ideas.
Okay. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night. Bye.
Thank you.